Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific North, fresh from the good to the bad to the Mariners.
The Super Bowl champion Seahawks, baby. Sorry,
That
don't
is
have a
correct.
voice.
The Seahawks are champions. Super Bowl 60 in a rematch of their latest defeat against the Patriots, and they came out on top. Touch on all sorts of things throughout this game. Gonna kind of leave the off season for another day and talk about the game and what it was and what it means in whole. But before we do that, if you're looking for a guy that I think since week 16 probably could have told you who the Super Bowl MVP was going to be, because we were riding K9. And I think we were on that train a little bit earlier than everyone else. And I know that you had some feelings about it, but I think I hit a little bit harder. You were a little bit more of a sharp guy at the end of the year, and I thought it would be K9's time. So if you're looking for a soothsayer that can predict the future, maybe you're looking for a guy like me, your boy Coach Red. You can find me on X at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and leave a comment or two. And if you're looking for a guy that I'm pretty sure successfully placed a bet on what color Gatorade would be dumped on Mike McDonald, it's the yellow loving Cain.
Yep, that's me. I'm Kate. You can find me over on Twitter at Kate406, TikTok 80624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. False, false, false. Do it, freaking do it.
Go same outline that we've done for a lot of the recaps. Seahawks win 29-13. Break it down by quarter. First quarter, Seahawks scored 3, New England 0. Third quarter or second quarter, Seahawks 6, Patriots 0. Third quarter, Seahawks 3, Patriots 0. And the fourth quarter, 17 for the Hawks, 13 for the Patriots, for a grand total of 29-13. First quarter, Jason Myers gets the scoring off with a 33-yard field goal. Second quarter, a pair of field goals, one from 39 and one from 41 for Myers. Third quarter will keep the Myers show going on a 41-yard field goal. Seahawks get the first touchdown of the game on a 16-yard strike from Sam Darnold to AJ Barner. Mac Hollins reels in a 35-yard touchdown catch from Drake May. Not to be outdone, Jason Myers tacks on another field goal for 26 yards, which is followed by a 45-yard interception return for Chenanda Wosu. And the scoring is finalized with a Ramondre Stevenson 7-yard off the turf catch
Yeah,
thrown by Drake May.
you know, we're calling that a catch. We need to call the other one a catch as well.
A little bit more, a little bit more evidence
Daylight, I
in the
suppose.
Stevenson one, where the one on Cooper Cup does look like there is some bounce back up and not by the force of his fingertips bringing it back up.
Yeah.
But as we talked about score, the Seahawks had a grand total of, let's see here, let me do some good math. 19 points on the board before the Patriots got on. And realistically, the Hawks were still being aggressive and getting after the quarterback, but you could give up yards, you could give up plays at that point. It's out of hand, right?
Yeah.
So the Patriots made it closer than the game was, if we're being honest. But Seahawks dominated it from the outset. Their defense played phenomenally throughout, which in our matchup breakdown last week, we did say the Seahawks defense across the board better than better than the Patriots. The
I
only outlier, which we did say, Christian Gonzalez was one of one, but
Yeah.
I know we didn't talk
Sam,
about Job. Job played a hell of a game. You had Spoon, who was constantly in the backfield, and you did get an interception
three
from
quarterback hits on
yeah.
him.
Well, you had an interception from Julian Love. So
Mm.
really look at this whole thing. Your secondary played better than their secondary in totality. But
And, Sam Darnold did a phenomenal job at kind of getting around a lot of pressures in the pocket.
not making
And
mistakes.
yeah, he got sacked
He
one
got
time.
he got very close to making a couple of bad mistakes, but didn't bite him. So let's talk about Sammy D. Sam Darnold, 19 for 38 on the game, 202 yards, one touchdown, zero interceptions. He did take the one sack. He eluded a few sacks, but he did throw some balls, especially more so early on, first quarter,
Mhm.
a little bit into the
A little
second, that
shaky.
were risque. And there was a couple of times where he had some pressure, and if he would have led receivers a little bit more, like there's one time he overthrew Rashid Shaheed, but Rashid Shaheed throws his hands up trying to get a holding or pass interference call. I think if he doesn't do that, that he runs underneath of that pretty easily. And then there were a couple of balls that Darnold threw deep, one to JSN with in coverage, and same thing. Christian Gonzalez in coverage on that one, and then also another deep ball to Rashid Shaheed that are both underthrown slightly.
Yep.
And Christian Gonzalez makes a good play. If Darnold leads that by another yard or two, uh, big touchdowns. And plus, there was another one where
Well, you
Darnold
had Cooper.
almost had a walk-in touchdown by JSN very early in this game. Pressure in his face, throws the ball up 2 yards too deep.
Yeah, and then you also had the one on Cooper late in the game where he was in the slot, basically just ran a post and beat the guy who was shaded 10 yards out. But Sam just, a lot of his balls were a lot like behind and stuff. You don't know if that's the oblique and all, but he did what he needed to do for most of the game, right?
the
Um,
biggest the biggest key is he did not turn the ball over, and that was a big factor in this game, especially late.
he hadn't turned the ball over, and the whole team hadn't turned the ball over the entire postseason. And that's something that we look at is wow, since Sam threw a pick in Carolina, he played his cleanest football after that. And he played it when it really mattered. So he really did all he needed to do yesterday. It didn't need to be flashy. It would have just been the extra sprinkles on top. But it was an all around team victory yesterday.
Yeah, and someone that did everything that they needed to do to
Yeah.
really help propel this game. We'll go into the rushing attack. And the bell cow of the day was Kenneth Walker the third, Super Bowl MVP. Kenneth Walker the third, 29 carries or 27 carries for 135 yards. I know I don't talk about guys in single digits, but I'm going to here. George Alani had 2 carries for 6 yards, and Sam Darnold had 2 carries for 5 yards, and one was a nice little scramble for a first down. Kenneth Walker finally has blossomed into what we've been talking about for
Yes.
years. Um, there are times that we said where he needs to stay patient, especially me. I beat this drum for years, right? Talking about having a little bit more Lev Bell in him, getting up to the line, letting the hole develop, and then hitting it hard. He did that at will. There was a huge play. I think it was in the third quarter. Just gets up to the line, and they even highlighted it. It's like he's walking in the biggest moment of the game and just waiting for the hole to open up, and he bursts for 9 or 10. A couple of times he still showed that big playability by just getting to the edge, but his ability to sprinkle in and run more effectively through the tackles
Mhm.
really skyrocketed his productivity in the playoffs. And it's something that we called for. And I know we said we're not going to talk about the offseason, but I think it 100% proves why they need him back in the building, especially with the injury to Sharps. Having a back that is established, knows your line, your whole line's coming back, right? You have that continuity, being able to get a back of his caliber that can turn it on, hasn't done it
Mhm.
consistently because they've been able to timeshare him. And I think that ultimately ended being a great thing, especially for the playoff run, because he was more fresh and more rested than some of the other backs that were in the playoffs.
I mean, K9 was just different yesterday.
Filthy.
Wish he would have had the home run. That was the cherry on top.
Yeah, it gets called
Uh,
back for a holding on Jalen Sundell that even the broadcasters were like, I mean, it's technically a hold, but you don't see that hold called very often.
you could tell that some of the calls were very strange in the game. The Seahawks didn't get penalized a lot, it seemed, but for like a stretch, the defense got penalized on like two or three drives, and it was kind of strange to see. But what he did yesterday, as you said, that one play where he's just waiting, waiting,
Fighting to the line and
waiting.
just patient.
And it was the explosion out of that, right? That really has impressed me. The legs churning
I,
every
I
single drive and not giving up, right?
I thought I was watching Prime Lev Bell in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, 100%, dude. And it's like you had that play where he cut up field and juked a guy, but then got his legs caught up, but he's still churning backwards. And Cooper Cup slams into him for the first and keeps him going, right? Like
Well, in the
every
course of like 3 plays, he ripped off like a 29 and a 35-yard run.
it was insane, dude. K9 was feasting all day. And it was like Anthony Bradford had a bad game, right? Not in the run game. It didn't seem.
No, run game was fine. I mean,
Your whole line played very well. Gray Zabel continued to shine in his blocks. Same with Charles Cross.
Abe
Uh,
Lucas setting the tone. They
yeah,
were running right a lot, and it was behind Bradford and Abe Lucas.
it was, and it shocked me because I love when they run it left. That left side is just an immovable force, it seems.
Well, let's hop over to the receiving stats. Just like we all predicted, this guy, every time he plays in a Super Bowl, leads his team in receiving. It's Cooper Cup with 6 catches for 61 yards. Up next, we've got AJ Barner, 4 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. Rashid Shaheed, 2 catches for 27. JSN had 4 catches for 26. Kenneth Walker had 2 catches for 26 yards.
I think Cooper Cup again
Savvy,
being a
veteran
savvy
savvy.
vet.
It's the guy that has been getting so much praise from his peers on his work ethic and even former teammates, right? You looked
Yes,
at some of the video cut ups where, Puka sitting there saying, like, hey, I wouldn't be where I'm at without you. JSN said it all year. Their whole wide receiver room has talked, the coaches have talked about how important Cooper Cup has been to this team, that it doesn't always show up on the stat sheet, but it showed up on the stat sheet in this game. Also, we talked about AJ Barner getting more involved and having the
oh,
ability to be a big time player in this game,
he
get
did
set up perfectly on a play action pass for a
it.
corner touchdown.
It was almost the exact same thing that happened against the Rams. He
It's a little different. This one was just more. This one was a little bit more of just a straight corner route instead of
sure,
post corner.
but on his crosser, right, he just got lost in the sauce and was completely wide open. And I'm glad Sam hit him with a better pass than the full extension. But I jumped up and I started doing the AJ Barter touchdown dance, dude. I I loved it. It was so great to see. Um,
Rashid Shaheed, I think, did help open up this game offensively more than we've seen in the past. He did catch a pass early. They tried to go over the top to him a couple times. I think that it really helped open up the middle of that field for AJ Barner and Cooper Cup specifically. JSN, hampered by a lower leg injury, it looked like, and one point got evaluated for a concussion. And JSN was very close to having 2 touchdowns in this game. If
yeah,
Sam Darnold would have not overthrown by about 3 yards, uh, you're looking at a
or
JSN touchdown.
would
And I
have
I think that if
fall.
he would have moved those 3 yards to that deep ball in the end zone against Christian Gonzalez, that it's also a touchdown.
I also, yeah, if he puts it in front of him and not behind him, yes. But hey, every time Christian Gonzalez was almost on a guy, he had a lot of pass breakups.
He
That
had
dude,
three.
that dude
But
was
the
an
other thing,
animal.
tack on tack on some more yards for Walker,
Yep.
averaging 13 yards a catch in the pass game in the Super Bowl.
His
So,
little curl that he did out of the backfield, where like Milton or Barmore is just grabbing at his hand, he's just like trying to shake him off, and then he rips like 11 yards after that. That was amazing to see. And they were saying on the or Collinsworth is like, yeah, Walker's not very good in the receiving games. Like, have you not been watching film lately?
yeah,
Because Kenneth Walker's been amazing in the pass game.
he's like Kenneth Walker is a terrible blocker and he's not great in the pass game. No, Kenneth Walker is does not excel at blocking on
But
third
it's
down.
gotten
That's
better.
that's why the Seahawks typically implore Sharp as their third down back and kind of they're back in the 2 minute offense. We're gonna be a little bit more pass happy, but Kenneth Walker is more than capable in the pass catching game. And there were
Oh
just
yeah.
things that Collins were said throughout the totality of that
He
game.
wanted the Patriots to win that game.
He, I'm shocked he didn't talk about Patrick Mahomes during the game at all. I think that was probably a pretty firm directive at him. But, he was saying the Seahawks had lost all the momentum after they, uh,
After they scored that touchdown with Mac Hollins, they're like, oh boy, this is the turning point. And then the
the
Seahawks just
momentum's
didn't do
the
anything.
momentum's all gone. The Seahawks go 3 and out and then punt the ball back. Drake May makes two completions and calls it like momentum's all on their side and then pick goes to Julian Love.
And then he just like, I've got and then he's like, I got nothing to say.
Hey,
Like,
yep. You know, I
also, big shout out to Michael Dixon. Oh my goodness.
just
That
a
dude's leg was on
monster.
display yesterday.
Yep.
My, like, how many times did he pin him within the five?
Well, especially the quick kick where he's getting the ball out quick there at the end to avoid a
Right.
block. It's close to getting blocked, does exactly what it needs to do, and that ball stops at the 6. Like phenomenal game by them, but really where the bread and butter laid in this game was with the defense. And
Yes.
I've got a lot of people to talk about and highlight. Not all of them because of gaudy stats necessarily, but I'm going to talk about all the key stats. And we're even going to have 1 to 2 new players enter the chat for this one.
Oh, I know who one is.
All right. At the top, you got Ernest Jones, the third, 11
Yes.
tackles,
Unreal game.
10 solos,
Yeah, Ernest Jones.
one TFL.
He was absolutely disgusting yesterday. Exactly what you want out of the captain of your defense. He set the tone for the middle of the field, it seemed like.
Yep.
And uh
I like 9 more guys to talk about. We're
I'm
not gonna be able to
sorry.
break down each one in real time. We'll kind of hit it at the end. Next guy we're talk about, second leading tackler, probably his best game of the year. Josh Jobe, 7 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, credited with 1 pass defense. I believe there was more than that, but some of them it's because the balls were uncatchable out of bounds just from great coverage. Drake Thomas clocks in with 6 tackles. Nicky Memwari has 5. So we're out of kind of the tackle zone almost, but we can't go out of that chronological order without talking about Devin Witherspoon. 4 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pass defended, 3 quarterback hits. Uh, was the reason it he would have had another sack attributed to him if Achin Nwosu wouldn't have caught the ball in the air and he would
Yeah.
have picked it up off the ground because then that would have been
Also,
a strip sack.
what a snag by Uchenna Nwosu. That ball was fired in there. He just literally by his ear just went boop, mine.
Yep.
Crazy.
Julian Love had 3 tackles, 1 interception. Derek Hall, 2 tackles, 2 sacks. Byron Murphy, 2 tackles, 2 sacks. Riley Mills, welcome to the chat.
Riley
The other one was Josh
Mills.
Jobe. I know we've talked about him in the podcast, but I don't think he's made the stat highlights page very often. Riley Mills records his first NFL sack in the Super Bowl by
Just
absolutely dog
demolished
walking.
that left guard.
Oh,
That left
baby.
guard got absolutely brutalized, and Riley Mills pushes him into him and takes him down one handed. I was impressed.
Yeah, I saw. Let me talk. I'll come right back to it. The last person we've talked about his only stats on the day was one interception and a touchdown, and that was a Chenna Nwosu. Um, but Riley Mills, they were talking about how Will Campbell and their left guard, I think its last name was Wilson, they're both rookies, and they're like, the weight room is going to be big for them this off season. They finally have like a full season under their belt, and like stuff like this won't happen anymore. And it's like Riley Mills missed a majority of the season recovering from an ACL tear, had not been really much of a factor in any of the games that he participated in. And it was the thing that I saw was like with them in the weight room, it was like, he had decent position, but the other guy was just too strong and just had the perfect technique. It's like that's a rookie that hasn't played most of the year. So big
Exactly.
ups, I mean,
Biggest
to
stage
to
to do it.
to get your first professional sack as a D lineman on that stage is awesome, and I wanted to highlight it.
Yeah, I my mouth was on the floor when I saw it, and Dad just was speechless. It was awesome.
Yep.
But
But the defense
Devin,
balled out. I mean, there's guys that we've been talking about a ton that don't even make this highlight list in this game.
mhm,
We didn't talk about Leonard Williams. We didn't talk about Demarcus Lawrence. We didn't talk about Reek, right? That we didn't talk about Jaron Reed. Like these are all guys that we've talked about quite a bit. Mafe was actually pretty solid too. Didn't have enough staffs to get there, but I think he had two or three quarterback hurries or
mhm.
quarterback hits. Like the
Oh,
defense balled out.
I mean, you're blinding, right? Like, uh, Byron Murphy and Derek Hall were absolute menaces. Like, I I just couldn't believe what I saw out of those two. That was one of the best like defensive games that I've seen them play. So
100%.
it
Talking
was super
about
fun.
big games, let's go to your MVPs of the game. Offensively, who's your MVP of this game?
It's K9, dude. He put them in the best spots to kick field goals for the most part, right? And there are other plays to open up. What he did was magical. We saw him make plays, extend plays. Um, and he was 100% the force multiplier on offense. I think you have to give it to K9 this week. There's really nobody other person on this team that has the stats. You could make a conversation for AJ Barner with the touchdown and the yardage and all the blocking that he did, but K9's the obvious pick for me. Coach Red, who you got?
I'm gonna throw some honorable mentions out there. Um, AJ Barner's one of them for me, getting the
I like it.
touchdown, but that's the only catch that he didn't get at least 4 yards of yak. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a handful of times where we've talked about in the past where he's got a good blend of being able to block and he's got good hands. He, like I said last week, he is kind of terminatory. He is not the most fluid all the time in open space, but that's a big man coming at you, and he did a phenomenal job. Another honorable mention for me is Cooper Cup.
Mhm.
It was exactly what you needed to see from Cooper Cup.
Dude, that sideline catch he had was so dirty.
I mean, it's a good thing that the Hawks have a lot of income, and like we're going to talk about this later on with guys who want them to bring back and guys to target in the off season and potential trades to look at. But when you really look at this Cooper Cup, the stats don't show you where that dollar value went point for point. I don't think you win this Super Bowl without Cooper Cup being on this roster. And I think that
Yeah,
that keeps him on roster next year, even at a contract that outplays his on field production.
that's what knowledge gets you, baby.
But my offensive MVP is a guy that the rigged NFL wouldn't even let this guy be in consideration for MVP of the game. You couldn't even vote for him. It's Jason Myers. Jason Myers racking up most field goals made in a Super Bowl, and he
Yep,
accounted for 17 points. Jason Myers outscored the Patriots.
yep, it's true.
That doesn't happen very often, especially in the Super Bowl, especially when you're going up against uh, MVP runner up Drake May, right?
Yeah, sure,
But
sure.
Jason Myers,
Money.
he like I said, hopefully that last regular season game in San Francisco got all the demons out and all the misses out, which it did,
Yeah.
and he came ready to play.
Also, how fun was it watching them win on the 49ers field?
It was fun.
It's a great time. Great time. And now they get to live that all next year.
Yep, someone was going to win it there, right? All right. Who do you got as your defensive MVP?
Lil Spoon, man. I just, what could he not do yesterday? I, you didn't see the Spoon you saw in the NFC Championship game for most of it. You saw elite Devin Witherspoon. It was a coin flip for me on who the best defensive player on the field was because Christian Gonzalez and him played at such a high level. You don't
And,
get the pick six without
and
him,
and
right?
Gonzalez is definitely a more elite coverage man at this point in
Yes.
his career. Spoon is a better tackler. Spoon is a better rusher from the secondary.
Mm.
Um, I think he blitzed on 6 plays, got home on 2 of them. Obvi- like I said, it's another sack on the books for Spoon if that ball hits the turf because he forced a fumble that was just caught in the air, so it is an interception,
Yeah,
right?
and it's he actually hit 3 times. It's just Drake May overthrew his target by a very wide margin because he was falling.
And
And
there were they had Drake May under duress all night.
he just played with such an intensity, right? I expected him or Eminwari to be the best player on the field for the majority of this game, but it just went to Spoon, right? He was the force multiplier for this team. Yeah, we can throw out an honorable mention for
I'll
uh
I've got some honorable mentions because I
cool.
don't want you to honorable mention someone that I may take.
Yeah, it's probably the guy that I'm thinking of anyway. So Little Spoon, he played almost like he did in the Cardinals game last year, right? With how insane he played for that. And
Well, we
usually
said
when he
we were
does,
waiting for that highlight moment from Spoon, and you got it in this game with his ability to
oh,
get
you got it
after the
early.
passer.
You got it early in this game because when he went on that first blitz and just hit, that you knew what they were in store for the game. And Devin Witherspoon was a big part of that. And I mean, listen to how the teammates talked about him after the game when reporters asked about him, right? They all said he played one of the most insane games of his life. So
Yeah. He did have also an MVP sound clip after the game, and they're like, you know, how do you take this in or something like that? How does this hit home? Or like how can you comprehend this or something to that effect, you know, or like what are you gonna do? And he's like, yeah, I'm finna to have a drink or two.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. You could tell that was his trying to not sound like gibberish in a post-game interview. And then you see in the locker room, just all the South comes out of him at that
Oh, it
point.
was good.
But that's who I got for my defensive player of the game. Coach Red, who do you got?
We're gonna start with honorable mentions, and there are a few more than there were um on the offensive side just because they played so well. First, I'm gonna talk about what I consider some of the elder statesmen in this game
Mhm.
that didn't make an impact consistently throughout this game, but showed up when the team needed them most. It's Julian Love with that interception. He did make a couple of good tackles, missed a tackle that he doesn't usually miss, comes down, and I thought he was going to put Ramondre out and did not. But
Swift.
coming up with that interception because there were multiple opportunities and the Hawks were so close a couple of times, sometimes fighting with one another, right?
Yeah.
Inadvertently. But to see Julian Love come down with one and he was kind of the restart, kind of getting away, getting some newer faces in here. And that was kind of the guy that really helped turn the table. The other guy gets the pick six in a Chin and
Yep.
Owosu, how impactful he was early on in his Seahawks career, dealt with injuries, wasn't necessarily as impactful, but being able to come back on a restructured contract, I think he wanted to be here and he proved why he should be here. I'm going to throw in Ernest Jones in my honorable mentions.
That's who I
That
wanted to throw in.
the dude is just a tackling machine, and he don't need no help. He can do it all by himself, right?
Also,
It's
mm, before you get to your pick, who laid the best hat of the day? Because I got one.
oh man,
I
I actually know who it is,
Okay, go
and
ahead.
no, you can go first.
Mine was Kobe Bryant. I don't know if he didn't see the ball, just didn't care to pick it. He wanted to end Hunter Henry's life.
Oh, he did lay some massive hat there.
He wanted to absolutely demolish Hunter Henry. You don't see Kobe Bryant do that very often. And when he lays hat, my
Well, the ball
goodness.
was deflected, and he's already coming in to make the hit, and it deflects off to the side. So I don't think he was going to be able to get it anyways, but he did lay a lick. Mine was the MVP for me, which we already discussed, was Jason Myers on the kickoff return, where
Oh,
he went,
yeah.
dude, Jason Myers laid about as much hat as I've seen a kicker
also,
lay in a long time.
also, how you talked about how Josh Jobe had 7 tackles. Josh Jobe absolutely lit somebody up yesterday. Wasn't it DeMario?
Yeah, Pop Douglas. Um,
Oh,
Josh Jobe was a guy that I want to highlight as an honorable mention. Like I said, I was tempted to say it was the best game of his career, but he's had a couple of picks in a game. But this was definitely the best game that we saw from Josh Jobe all season.
yes.
He was aggressive. He was able to break up a pass. Like I said, he had great positioning where the doesn't get credit with the pass breakup because there was nowhere for the receiver to make a play just due to great
Was
positioning.
that the one where the receiver was out of bounds?
Yeah. And Josh Jobe played hands down his best game of this year and possibly of his career. My last honorable
Yes.
mention is Byron Murphy, just his ability to help plug up the middle to allow Ernest Jones to make plays for him to get 2 sacks in the game was
Hmm.
huge. Uh, just a stud in his second year. But give me Derek Hall, 2 sacks and a forced fumble. Byron Murphy ends up recovering that fumble, but Derek Hall was a problem. And at least two, obviously, from the sacks, but I think he had like three quarterback hurries or hits. And you really saw him ratchet it up after the 1 game suspension, right?
Yes.
And it's good to see, especially when you look at Boye Mafe, who was not as impactful as he was in years past. And you saw Derek Hall kind of surpass him. You saw Boye Mafe as well do some good things in this, but Derek Hall's ability to bend and the strip sack was huge. It really felt until late when the Seahawks were kind of in their prevent defense that anytime they started to get momentum, like starting to have momentum. What happens? Strip sack. Starting to have a couple of plays. What happens?
Turnover.
Pick to Julian Love. They didn't really have momentum when Spoon came and laid some Matt Nwosu goes the other way. I mean, he did go 45 yards, so a little momentum. But
Yeah.
I believe that was shortly after the big hit by Jason Myers on kickoff, if I'm
I think
not
so.
mistaken. But
Just
the
an
deep,
awesome end to an awesome season, dude. Best sports season of my life that I can ever remember.
yep,
Um, the emotions were high last night for me, at least. Uh, it's insane that they didn't lose another game after you know, the worst week of sports for us. They lost out of the championship round, and the Seahawks lost to the Rams, and then they proceeded not to lose again. It's impressive.
yep. And got a varying take on how I felt last night. Obviously, I'm super happy, super excited that the Seahawks take down the Super Bowl. It's not easy to do, right? There's a handful of
Mhm.
teams that have been there for a very long time and they're very good teams even currently, or some that haven't made it at all, right? But it just sucks that Seattle sports has got me so used to defeat that the Seahawks have two Super Bowl championships, and in after both of them, it just felt like this is nice. It didn't feel like it was earth shattering. I didn't feel that emotion because it was really never in question in either of those games. Like you look at, to one of the games I was most heavily invested in my entire life is when they lost to the Patriots the last go around. It was a back and forth affair. They had come back. Even their first championship felt a little bit more because you had a big play to Jermaine Kearse to send you there in overtime.
Mhm.
Um, the best game of the season for me was the second game versus the Rams. It was you snatched victory out of the jaws of defeat. And it's just having success is not something that happens, and it doesn't happen in quick succession, right? you know
Mhm.
when you really look at it, you've got the Mariners made their deepest playoff run and they make the playoffs for the first time in over 2 decades. You have the Huskies playing for the national title. You have the Kraken make the playoffs in their second season ever, and it looks like they're currently on track to be one of those spots. The Sounders are consistently good, but you've never had this confluence like last season. The Sounders made a pretty deep run in the playoffs. The Mariners made
Mhm.
their deepest run. The Kraken are playing well. The Huskies improved this year on the year prior, and
Mhm.
you just sit there and look at all that and you're like, there's too much success right now that I can't fully appreciate it without having like that agony or that drama, that build up that really puts it over the top, right? The best game for me was, the 15 inning game against the Tigers, right? Where
Yeah.
you're on the edge of your seat the entire game, and it's like we we know the Seahawks have always been good. For the last
Yeah.
20 years, let's not call it 20 years, 15, 16 years, have been a very above average team where they sprinkled in some greatness, right? And
Mhm.
the greatness shouldn't be understated, but I'm ready for them to if you can can keep this dominant strain rolling, which they have a relatively young team, got a bunch of players still under contract for next year, especially a lot of their key players, right? There's there's thought that they could make a little run, right? The window's open, right? You talk
Mhm.
about windows, and when you get to your first one, the window's open. How long can you keep that open? And hopefully that can help build and just like the overall joy, right? I felt
Mhm.
happy, but I didn't feel like bliss and supreme joy from it just because it felt like this game
There's
was
no
in hand.
adversity, right? There's no adversity. It was a very boring lead up to the Super Bowl because both teams are ran by a pretty like by the by kind of guy, right? Where it's like, nah, let your play do the talking. Don't run your mouth. Don't give anybody any excuse, and
Don't give
it's
them any bulletin board material.
like unlike the Rams, like the NFC Championship was amazing. It was a fantastic game, right? Like,
Had you a little bit more on the edge of your seat. And I don't want to discount it because it's difficult to do. This is the most wins they've ever had in a season,
mhm,
right? This is a special group of guys. The defense, I think, is going to continue to stay strong next year, even though you lose Clint Kubiak to the Raiders job. Sounds like the report I saw today, it looks like they're going to be closing in on their offense fire and they're going to do it quick for their offensive coordinator. It's probably going to be a promotion from within. The thought is they will probably keep a good chunk of the staff. Um,
they might keep betting too. That's one
I
thing I've
saw
been
that. I
hearing.
mean, that Benton is a Kubiak guy, and probably one of the coordinators offensively is going to be his offensive coordinator down there, and I assume that he'll call plays. Kubiak will, but I don't think that there's going to be a ton of roster shakeup on this team. I don't think there's going to be really a bunch of coaching shakeup either, and this team is so good at playing together and complementing each phase, each side of the football, really complementing the other side and picking each
Mhm.
other up, not just with their play on the field, but with their words in the media. Right. I think this really made a big change when Ernest Jones, said, F you, Sam Donald's our guy. We got him and he's got us. He's bailed us out. We didn't bail him out enough tonight. It's just the epitome of team. And there was nobody,
Yes.
and some guys that at points in time in their careers have Reek's the perfect example where he's got a little diva in him, and you didn't see that nearly as much this year. Kenneth Walker could be one of the biggest divas out there when he gets all of his touchdowns vultured when he drives the team inside the 10. It's like, all right, Zach, you're up, bud. Right.
Yeah.
You have every other receiver that would love to have got as many targets as JSN had this year. Like, well, I'm over here. I'm open. Like
Mhm.
I can make that play. Right. There's guys that could be a
I
little
mean,
toxic and they 100% aren't.
yeah, this has been they understood the mission, right? One of my favorite things is in the post party, the camera pans over to Torrey Hart and he's just like, wait till you see what I've got cooked up for me next year to add to this team. Wait till you see. Like, you got guys who are so bought in and so invested in the culture and the way that Mike runs things, that this team has a real chance to be even more special than it already is.
Yeah, I did see something with Mike too, where he's talking to somebody today and they're like, oh, it's only 2 weeks until the combine. And he's like, I didn't think that is a pretty tight timeline, but like, if you guys want me to do this every year, I'll gladly volunteer, you know, he played in the Super Bowl year in, year out. And John Snyder, you got to give him props for the way that
Mhm.
he helped get Mike McDonald all the pieces he needed to put this
Yeah.
team at the championship level that they played at this whole season. And it's great for the people of Seattle. It was rough in October, right? Mariners
Yep.
break your heart. Seahawks, you know, lose week one, big comeback week two, win big week three, lose week four. You're like, all right, what's this gonna be? You know, what's this whole thing gonna come together at? The defense had a slew of injuries, offense took a game or two to really get firing up on all cylinders. You had Sam Darnold being a little turnover machine there in the middle.
Mhm.
And it was a fun ride, and I'm excited to do it all again next year.
Agreed. So am I.
And I think we both agree as well. A little bit of love on social media would do us good. You find me, your boy, Coach Red, on X at the Real Coach Red, on Instagram at the Real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the Real Coach Red. Also find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and leave a comment or two. Kane, where you at?
You can find me over on Twitter, Kane2406, TikTok, Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. False. Do it, freaking do it.
And as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.